Oh yeah, the hair is pretty rough. It's curly. Looks like you just woke up from a nap. What's going on, everybody? I am Scott from Konig.
I'm Nick from Konig. Thanks for
I don't even like that.
introing me.
So by now, if you're watching this video, there's no doubt that you've seen the video made by Fitment Industries, The Truth About Konig Wheels.
Right.
One of the things
Probably.
No, definitely. If they're watching this, they've definitely seen it. So Fitment Industries, if you don't know, which you do know, they make these videos about different wheel companies. And what's interesting about what Fitment has done is they do a lot of research. We did not have any contact with them about this video when they were doing this video. So anything that they found is public record and is out there for you to find as well.
Yep.
So what we decided to do was we decided to go through Fitment's video. We're going to watch it and we're going to break it down point by point, and we're actually going to tell you what was good, what was bad, what is correct, and what may not really be 100% accurate.
A little bit of fact checking.
Right.
Anyways, you want to start the video?
Well, I mean, yeah, your finger's on the button, so.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
So let's take it back. We're talking the days of underglow. We're talking the days of extensive weird body kits. And no, we're not talking about last year. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the original aftermarket wheels in the domestic car game, Konig. Keurig. Coffee. I'm going to go get some coffee.
Alex has really changed a lot.
Well, you figure the video is 2 years old.
So
Yeah.
Konig is actually a German word for king, which, since we're on the subject of German words, ich liebe dich, YouTube viewers. What? Konig has been a part of the aftermarket wheel scene since like the dawn of time, most notably in America and Europe. And when they were founded in 1980,
Hey, you skated over a wheel. We did that.
Yeah, but he did it first. That was Nathan Hamilton.
they have risen and fallen depending on the trend in the last 30 or 40 years. So what?
Let's go back.
All
Go
right.
back a touch, because you paused it right in the middle of a
Oh, sorry.
fact-checking episode.
Notably in America and Europe. And when they were founded in 1983,
Oh, he
they
wouldn't
have
need it.
risen and fallen depending on the trend in the last 30 or 40 years.
Well, look, I don't know. I guess I understand what he means about the rose and fallen thing, but we've been pretty consistent for almost 40 years now. One thing I will say is technically we were actually founded in November or end of October of 1981. Our first debut was actually at SEMA, the SEMA show, and that would have been, I think, 1981 SEMA show. But we kind of use 82 as it was only a couple months before. But anyhow.
That's interesting.
Yep.
I mean, it was already created, so... I mean,
Yeah.
before getting to SEMA, we would have had to...
Anyhow, 82.
Anyways.
So what makes Konig so special, and why is it such a hot topic when it comes to aftermarket wheels? Well, because almost every single person knows that Konig is synonymous with the aftermarket car game. And while Konig is a subsidiary of YHI International since 2005, who is a manufacturing powerhouse, Konig has operated relatively independently. So what makes Konig such a hot brand?
Yeah, so that's 100% accurate. In 2005, we were acquired. The owner and founder of Konig at the time, his name was Rick Guevara. He actually had merged, made an agreement to merge with YHI, and YHI International is one of the world's largest aftermarket wheel manufacturers in the world. And Rick basically stayed on board until 2011 when he retired. So he owned the remaining 50% of the company until that time. But for the most part, we have always operated independently. And what's even more interesting is that you would think that even when they acquired 100%, that we would have a lot of direction from them. But the truth is they don't. They respect the fact that we're our own brand. We do our own kind of QC here. They do their QC there. They're a really high quality manufacturer, and the quality is really great. And
Who was doing it beforehand?
so it was different. Like back in the day when you would do different wheels, there was a lot of different. Even now, most companies are importers. They find a wheel, they work with things, they set their standards, whatever it may be, and then they bring them in for the factories that they may source, right?
Okay.
And the difference now is that we only source from our own factories. So, like in other words, every wheel that comes is made by us. which is YHI International. So that's 100% true. They don't interject with us. They let us operate independently. Marketing's the same. Design comes from us. So, yep, accurate.
Cool.
Well, because of the fact that everybody just knows the brand, especially here in the United States. So where did Konig come from? Great question. 1982, there was a corporation called Panmar Corp, which actually specialized in exporting and importing products into the United States. Now, back in the early 80s, the aftermarket car scene was starting to rumble and bustle about, most notably with muscle cars. Now, you have to remember that back in the early 80s, there was the tuners, the 260 and 280Zs. You had Camaros, you had the mullets, you had all that sort of stuff that was really coming up, that was extremely popular, and there was a huge need for aftermarket wheels in the United States. So Konig and Panmar was launched and essentially tried to fill the gap in between super expensive wheels for imports and super expensive wheels for domestic vehicles, and they created the Konig line that was an affordable aftermarket wheel. And Konig did pretty decent. They came out with a bunch of new designs, a bunch of really eccentric stuff that started to hit well with the lower market for entry-level vehicles, and they did okay. All the way up until 2005, where YHI International bought them out, or...
All right, so let's see. When it comes down to what Alex just said, again, 100% right. 1982, technically our company, even today, is called Panmar Corporation. When it comes down to why, Rick kind of started bringing in wheels, a lot of it was because there were domestics. And then that was really the point, in the 80s where import cars started to develop a niche following. Now,
Right.
Rick really was a car guy, but he was, super interested in what was going on in, at that time, a lot of the Asian communities. And that trend that started out, a lot of it was primarily heavily on the West Coast, and it's still really big in California. Basically what happened was he realized that there was an extreme void for product on import cars. So he decided to make a specialization there. We never really did much in the form of doing a lot of domestic wheels, so that's a little off base, but for the most part, 100%, it was all about bringing in wheels for this new import scene. And Konig was really big when it first came out because we were one of the only ones
that was doing imported cars
at the time here in the States. And the one thing you should note is we were one of the first advertisers with Super Street magazine. So if you can go back that far, Konig, I think Konig, I want to say either Gretty or HKS, and it may even be Spec Clutch, but right in those days, I mean, when you start looking about the Bruni days and stuff like that, like, it's right in there.
Yeah, throwback.
Yep.
All right, let's keep it playing.
Wired them, and that's where Konig's quality really went through the roof.
Wait, I'm sorry, I lost track. He's talking about once we were under YHI, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Ron. Hey, Billy. All right, don't move a muscle. I'm fine. While this is Konig's time in the spotlight, YHI International needs to have a mention here because of an important part that they played in Konig's overall manufacturing process. YHI International plays a part in companies like Yokohama when it comes to tires, when it comes to Konig in terms of aftermarket wheels, and on top of that, they have a stranglehold on the OZ market share as well. 30% of OZ's shares are actually owned by YHI International, and on top of that, you guessed it, YHI was the exclusive proprietary dealer in the early 70s for NK. So that means that the ties between OZ, NK, their tuning line, and Konig is a lot closer than what you would imagine. And while YHI started in Singapore, they have exploded across the international market. They take into account companies like Advanti Racing, which they own, which I don't know if you heard about them, but they are one of the sole producers for the Mercedes-Benz Formula One team racing between 2013 and 2015. So the company is no slouch. On top of that, they produce and manage and wholesale and do all the crazy behind-the-scenes logistics stuff for companies like Yokohama, for Nankang, and other prominent tire companies. So while NK and Konig may not share exact factories, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that they did at one time, including if you go...
Did they?
All right, so this is a complicated answer to question to tackle. The first thing is the OZ shares things, yeah, I mean, you could do your research there. There's a portion of that's owned by YHI International. When it comes down to NK tuning, like Alex mentioned, it's correct. The YHI builds wheels for a lot of different manufacturers and brands that you know. They come right out of our factories, and that is not that's not for question. That's something we really do. So, like I said, YHI is one of the largest aftermarket wheel manufacturers in the world, and they produce a lot of brands that you're very, very used to, and that's all part of it. So there is a possibility. Now, a special note, all Enki MAT stuff is done in Japan, and we don't do Enki's MAT stuff. Not we. I mean, YHI doesn't do anything with the MAT stuff. So I just want to be very disclaimer with that. And not everything is.
What's the MAT stuff?
It's flow formed.
Oh,
it's Enki's flow formed. So that stuff is certainly doesn't come from us. But Alex pointed that stuff out, and again, he was fairly accurate with that.
On the Konig website right now, you can actually see a lot of the technology that Konig uses in their most recent lineup is the same thing NK uses in their lineup. So what does all that mean? It means that they share more history than a lot of people would like to believe. And it's probably one of the biggest reasons that Konig has become such a prominent player as...
So, all right, let's talk about this real quick. It was true in going back when we first started doing flow forming wheels, 2009. There was a collaboration where we had licensed MAT technology from NK. The two companies, YHI and NK, it's interesting. They have quite a history together, a long history together. Like Alex mentioned, from the 70s. So right at the top of both YHI and NK, there's a great admiration and a great relationship.
So, but they're just partners. They're not under YHI.
They're partners in the sense that whatever. So the same way we, they contract YHI to build some of their, let's say NK tuning line. What ends up happening is we had licensed MAT technology to build our original flow formed wheels through NK's MAT process.
And then what happened down the line?
Yeah, so
kind of came up with your own.
So it wasn't that long. Once everything was under YHI's belt, that they actually developed their own proprietary process. We just call our wheels flow formed, but when it comes down to the Advanti racing product, that product is referred to as DST, but it's YHI's and our kind of proprietary flow formed process.
Recent in terms of low cost, high quality aftermarket wheels in this decade. So Konig wants to focus on tuner enthusiast style vehicles, but that's not all anymore. They want to be big. They have applications for aftermarket tuning, racing, Formula
Was that
1.
really your car?
Yeah.
Hold on, I need to back that up a little bit. Scott's car.
That's not all anymore. They want to be big. They have applications.
Wow. When was that video taken?
2000.
360p
2006?
resolution. Wow. That's some top quality stuff.
Thank you.
For aftermarket tuning, racing, Formula 1, they want to do all of that stuff. Most notably, they want to really jump in to OEM application vehicles for...
Wait, he just said want to jump in. Doesn't Konig already do that?
Yeah, so all right, so I think we finally found a point where we're slowly off of this. We don't target things by different pushes into areas like that. YHI and Konig as a company, we have taken on OE projects from time to time, and we have for decades. But with OE projects, it's not like oh, this person's building all the wheels for Toyota. This person's building all the wheels for this company. That's not how OE works. How it works is usually you're not even building wheels for the entire country. You bid into these groups and you build projects when you have these relationships and you work on different things to maybe build wheels for a particular model vehicle in a particular area, and so there'll be a wheel option, and they do use, you build them to Toyota specifications, or I mean to the OE's manufacturer specifications. They do come in and audit you. It's their quality. It's their control.
Is that almost like how like BBS wheels came on not only Miatas but also like BMWs?
Or you might see them on Evos.
Or from factory?
What? Yeah. I mean, for there was a BBS Evo wheel that came on Evos. You can see NK does. I always pronounce it's NK, but anyhow.
NK. My daisies on the Miata are actually NK.
Okay, so there's a lot. There's more than a few companies that will do OE projects, but they don't do they don't build every wheel.
Right.
Right. Like Reyes doesn't build every wheel for the Nissan GTR 370, but there's plenty of them.
They have a wheel option.
They have wheel options that are built by them
for certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, so that's just it's sourced. But anyhow, as far as growing into F1, we have no desire to be in F1. YHI with Advanti Racing was in F1 for a little bit of time. Do we do drift? And Konig lends itself to the stuff that fits its brand, right? Like we are in drift community because it fits grassroots racing where we like to be. We're in time attack and road racing communities because it fits the area where we are the most prevalent. That's where that's what we do, right? And racing and motorsports is really important to us. So we kind of get pushed into those things because it's the right look for what kind of stuff we're making.
Well, yeah, that's what.
But we do build private label for other companies. I mean, there's other brands out there that you buy from that you may feel that that's your style, and it's possible that we are behind helping them manufacture it. Does that mean that we deal with all their style no, that's not what it means. I don't want this to make it sound like we're doing their manufacturing and building wheels is a part of what we do. Right. So anyhow, it's nothing to take away from a company. That's what a lot of companies do. Most wheel companies do not have their own factory. That's just the way it is.
So let me ask you this: was it, what am I trying to ask you? So was it designed around we want to get into time attack racing, we want to get into drifting, or was it just these people started using our product for drifting, so now we're just kind of molding into I guess making the product better for the current consumer?
I guess a little bit of both. I mean, we've been working with NASA Racing, which is they're an I don't want to say professional, but basically they're really an agency that allows for all the time attacks and autocrosses, and they're a sanctioning body. We've been friends with Chris Cabetto and Ali Arsham, who were the co-founders of NASA, since the beginning. So supporting grassroots racing has always been something we've been really that's really important to us.
Right.
And because of that, when you start to push into other racing, things start to translate over. And as you see that kind of works for your brand and it helps out the community, you push in, right?
Gotcha.
So we're just supporting the community that supports us, really, is what it is.
All right. Let's continue on with the video.
Yep.
So Konig has two main wheel lines. They are actually called the main wheel lines, and they're Flowform Tech wheel lines. And both of them are made in Thailand or Taiwan, depending on which one you get.
Not 100%. So it really depends.
There's more than just those two factories.
Yeah, there's a couple more factories in different parts of the world. Again, there are factories. The one thing I can't stress enough is that regardless of what country a wheel comes from, it's really up to each factory. I mean, our factories, regardless of where they're located, they're YHI workers that are trained by YHI staff that use our specified specifications.
Right.
That they have a QC policy that goes through. So it's all very, very standard across the board, no matter what factory we decide to make them in.
Right, because you pretty much put the specifications. You put the specifications in, and they have to follow every single thing, no matter which part of the world they're in.
I mean, right down to exactly what gets packed in a box, right down what goes on the box, right down to exactly what testing is done on each particular wheel, particular bolt pattern, drill patterns. I mean, everything is explicitly done, and there's a process on everything. But when you start to get into these things, it's up to the company that's selling you the wheels to really make sure that they're selling you the right thing and that the quality is there. And that's something that that always happens, and multiple times they're out. And all our factories are approved by most agencies, like most of them are, they're all TUV certified, ISO certified.
So is it possible to get a set of wheels?
VIA, GWO, anyhow.
Would it be possible to get a set of wheels where like one was made in, like, I guess Thailand, the other one was made in Taiwan?
We generally don't mix the same model wheel unless it's like years later and there's a reason for it.
Okay.
But remember, a lot of this is just because by putting all your eggs in one basket, if you deal with a company that has all their wheels come out of one facility and something happens to that facility, that country, that region, it could really dry the product up. And we've seen that before with COVID-19 or whatever it may be.
Right.
So for people that were in one location, they suffered worse, right? And so we make sure that you continue to get your wheels is to make sure that we don't put all our eggs in one basket, and we're kind of sourcing from, and they're all our factories. We don't go outside of our factories at all.
The mainline wheels are decent. They're not bad, but they're definitely a little bit dated in their overall styling and cues. And they're not a bad.
The thing here is that you have to understand, first off, the two lines. We call them mainline flow form just to distinguish which ones are flow formed or not. When it comes down to the traditional cast wheels, listen, I don't know that I would say that they're all dated. I mean, they're not for everybody, but here's the thing. When you realize that everybody's taste is not the same, wheels are like ice cream flavors, right? You have to be able to offer a differentiation of wheel styles. And I mean, look, some of these designs have certainly changed since.
I was going to say.
And that's what will happen.
Since you guys started flow forming, or since Konig started flow forming in 2009, it's relatively new. So if you start flow forming all the new designs, all of, a lot of newer stuff is going to be more dated. You know what I mean?
Well,
so I think in that aspect.
I think the problem that you go into, first off, even these wheels, a lot of these are discontinued now because it's a couple years old already.
Right.
But
That's
we're
another
constantly rotating wheels through there. I also think it's just personal preference. Like, there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily.
Are those available?
Yeah, I think
for my car.
No. But there's a lot of wheels that I may not care for, or Nick may not care for, but then there's other ones that you do. So, hey, look, to each their own, right?
They do try to make their own eccentric designs, different styles, and things like that, and they come in a plethora of different sizing. But the one lineup that really matters, the one lineup that I think Konig is really jumping back into the game, is their flow form.
Jumping back into the game?
It's all opinion.
Okay.
I mean,
Wheels. Their flow
I don't think we
forming
left
wheels
the
are
game,
where
but
it's at. The Renform, Apliform, Decagram, all those weird mathematical wheel names are the reason that Konig has gotten so popular as of late. On top of that, you can get a set of 18 by like 10 and a half for under $1,000 for rotary forged wheels. I mean, it's absolutely insane that you can.
Rotary forging is a term that has been used by TSW, I believe, and it's not something we don't refer to our wheels as. That's why we just call them flow formed.
Because they have a copyright on it.
I mean, well, regardless, but
trademark.
flow formed is the actual process. When you say forging, that's a process. When you say casting, that's a process. When you say flow forming, that's a process. We refer to them as flow formed wheels.
How do the processes differ?
Well, casting is different than forging. That's different than flow forming, right? Like, but I'm saying like they're processes.
I guess I just didn't know what rotary forging is.
It's flow forming.
That's why I said how is it different?
So, well, it's just what they call it.
You just said it's the same, but you also said it's different.
No, but rotary forging is flow forming. It's TSW's version of flow forming.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know what to say about that. Yeah. So anyhow, that's not our term.
Anyways, but okay.
That at a price point like that. So what is flow forming technology? It's rotary forging. It's the same thing. You take the arrows spun at a high heat, you got the fire, and then they move the rollers through here. It aligns the grain structure. picture. So the barrel of the wheel is forged, in essence, and the face is still cast. Now you know, rotary forging, TSW coined that phrase, and you can't actually
covered
use
that.
it from other companies. So all these other companies are coming up with their own words for it, like flowform, like barrel
No,
form,
flowform's the
forged, and all that sort of stuff.
Flowform is
flow
what?
form is the process. That's what it is. But yes, a lot of other companies are coming up with their own names, and rightfully so. That's what companies do, right?
But you just said they're the same thing. So why emphasize that flow forming is the process if it's the same, just with a different name?
So flow forming itself is a process. There's always going to be certain portions of. I'll give you a for instance, right? Like there's going to be other for instances, but like NK's process, if you've seen the machine, when they actually at least they did. I don't know what their stuff looks like maybe now, but when they actually flow formed the wheel, their dies actually went up and down vertically. Their process was just, they had other steps in it that were different than our process. Our process is, and again, it's not just the way it goes. I mean, there's plenty of other things
that make the process
maybe slightly different, but the process itself, the same thing happens with casting technology. You can have low pressure, high pressure, all these different things, and there's different little versions and things within those, right? So that's all it is.
So flow forming essentially is just wrapping up what Konig's process is.
Well, we just call them flow form. The same, it's just letting you know it's a flow form wheel. We don't coin a term, is what I'm saying.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this the roll?
Yeah. Is your audio working? Yeah.
Check one.
All right, continuing on.
Yeah.
Stuff, but because TSW copyrighted the term, people can't use it. And on top of that, look at those prices. Mario, hit him up with that plug.
Why don't you do stuff like that?
On top of that, Konig uses
Because Scott, I don't know what the permissions are. we just went over this recently.
All right.
technology as NK, which was matte technology. If you guys didn't hear, we had a video about NK. You can go watch that. But it's the same exact technology and process. So
really have
you can be
changed.
understood that the quality of Konig, especially as of recent, has like and since Konig has made wheels that are flow forming tech since 2010, you could vouch that they've always been doing it. But they really haven't exploded as of recent until probably about a year or two ago, especially when their marketing team hit this new launch super, super hard.
I mean, we did make a more conscious effort to push harder into flow forming technology because the process, we had gotten our process just so dialed, and we were producing some wheels that were, I mean, like, go look at some take like a hypergram in the bigger sizes, 18, 10 and a half, 18, whatever. Go compare some of the weights to even forged wheels, and again, not processed, but just the weights, and you'll see that we started to get a lot of things really dialed in, and it was like, you know what, this is going to be our future. We can make a great product here even better. And
Right.
so that was the conscious effort. It wasn't like, oh, now we're going to start marketing. But there was a shift, a little bit of shift in focus where we put a little bit more emphasis on it. That was like the end of 2015. Again, we've made flow form wheels the whole time, but this was the time where we were like, you started
realizing
well,
the
this is
benefits
right.
of-
This is we can bring a better we can bring a product to especially motorsport people, and we could do it really well.
Right.
So we just wanted to do it with more focus, right?
That's a good thing for Konig. Konig is one of those brands that I really feel falls between the lines of Rhoda and NK, where they produce a decent quality wheel with their ISO, with all of the specs and manufacturing processes that they need, but they're not trying to be somebody they're not. Konig just does a good job, and they use the tech that they can, especially coming from NK and Advanti Racing and the other brands that YHI International hosts under their umbrella, because they can. So why would they not use it? And of course, their designs are original-ish. There are some that are obviously wraps, but a lot of wheels.
All right.
Original-ish.
Let's get into this. Our flow form wheels 100% are original designs. I mean, I think it's very difficult to find, to design wheels nowadays that's not going to have any resemblance of any wheel ever. Because
that's pretty valid. Because
there's a million
a
wheels.
lot of stuff has been done, and everyone is like,
right. But when you are a wheel person, like I am, and you stare at wheels all day long, and you look at different things, when you really take a wheel and lay it out, it may have the same number of spokes, it may have similar spoke shape, whatever it is. There's a lot of variation in detail work that goes into a wheel. Now, when you paint both wheels flat black, matte black, and put them next to each other, you will always lose those details. And that's why I think a lot of people struggle with this. But really, there's a lot of detail in the actual design. So there's that. As far as being a rep company, listen, you know, maybe in the earlier years, but we have gone far away from that. And
it's
we
true.
do.
You should see him struggling to do designs.
Listen, it takes a long time, and the only reason, I guess, look, I mean, I understand where Alex is coming from, so I'm not knocking with him at all, but you know, for us, you know, we put a lot of work into trying to make sure that we develop something new and different, and we do it, you know, annually, and it takes all year long to get there. So, anyhow, that's all I have to say about that.
Have their own styling
Okay.
or cues that I would say make them their own wheel. Konig does a great job with all of their wheels, especially their flow forming tech, because it allows people to jump in a set of wheels that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. And that I can most definitely respect. So if you're looking to pick up a set of Konig flow formed or anything like that, guess who sells them? We do. This is not sponsored though, but if you are interested in any Konig, Ampliform, Ultraform, or any of their main wheel lines, we actually have all of that on our website, fitmentindustries.com. Just click Konig when you go to the wheels, and they'll all show up right there for you. We also have other 30,000 wheels, tires, and suspension, plus airlift, because I know you want airlift. It's 2018. Who's not running airlift anymore besides me? That is everything that we have on Konig. We hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you would like to.
So I guess that kind of brings us to the end of this. I will say, I think that without ever being approached for any information from Alex and the Fitment Industries team, they did an extraordinary job
They
with this
had
video.
a lot.
They
Like,
had, and I will say that for the most part,
did they
very
give you-
accurate.
Did they give anybody a heads up once they posted it,
Nope.
or did it just go live and?
Yeah, it just went live. You know, they didn't give us any preface, and I think that when you're them and you're trying to do a good job by pushing out content, and I would say that this type of thing does fall slightly into journalistic exposure.
Oh, definitely.
They did their own research. They came up with all this stuff. Again, all this stuff that you've heard here, it's all public record. It's out there. You just got to go find it.
And they went out, they found it, and
They found it, and they did really a very incredible job. So, I mean, really kudos to them. I mean, they're of the channels that try to bring you as much of the most accurate, I would say, wheel and tire related information. So they did a really good job. I hope that we gave enough explanation on some of these points. But if you have any other questions or things that you weren't sure about, drop them down below. We'll be happy to check it out.
yeah, go watch their video, and if you think anything is wrong, well, not wrong. If you think there's anything should be elaborated on,
Or if you have any other questions
any other questions
about,
as well.
yeah, let us know. Yeah, the story of Konig's pretty interesting, and we've been trying to get that for a few years.
Maybe one day we will.
yeah.
We need to get Rick back here.
That's what we're waiting for. I want it to come from him, not from me.
Call him.
I don't want to do it on the phone. Like he'll be here sometime.
I don't know. Say, hey Rick, can you come out here so we can do a video?
Anyhow, so that's it. We hope you enjoyed this watch, and if you did, make sure you like and subscribe below, and we will catch you on the next one.
Pretty much. Peace.